Thank you. Oh, wow.
Oh, they're screaming.
It's for you. Thank you. Look, we fooled him. We swapped at the last minute.
We did?
He said he had a good side, so I went, OK, you sit there.
I know.
Oh.
Well,
look at
thank
this.
you
Lovely crowd.
so much for
all the way
coming
back
out.
to the Lincoln Memorial. There must be 1 million people here. It's incredible. It's incredible.
I don't know about you, my friends, but after the last 10 days, I am really looking forward to talking with Ricky Gervais for the next 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm not getting paid, by the way. I didn't even know they were charging for these tickets. I only agreed to do this because Trump hates this paper, so that's why I agreed to do it. And then I found out they were charging like $40. Where does the money go?
Filler, Botox, you know.
Not even charity.
Not even charity. Believe me. Believe me.
Unbelievable. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for paying $40 to come and see him. Let me tell you a little bit about what I intend. I don't really care if you don't like it because it's too late now to change it. The two of us are going to chat for a bit of time, and then we are going to open it up to questions from the floor. And I think I didn't really hear that introduction, but I think Michelle sort of said everything we need to know about Ricky. He burst onto the scene. He burst into our lives as the delusional and self-aggrandizing boss on The Apprentice.
Office. Sorry.
You know The Apprentice?
Yeah. You're talking like Trump again, aren't you?
Not me. I'm a journalist. I'm far too partial for anything like that.
Imagine if I'd been on The Apprentice.
But Ricky got there first and did a much funnier job. And I think we should say that this Times Talk sold out incredibly quickly. And I have a small theory for why that is. And if you could show us the first still image, please. We'll see it there. What happened to those monkeys, Ricky? We want to know what happened to the monkeys.
Could I just say, I was 6 then and didn't know any better, but you shouldn't have your picture taken with those monkeys. You definitely shouldn't. They're illegally imported often, and you shouldn't dress up wild animals and make them slaves. So I just like to say, I don't approve of that now, but, but at 6 years old, I just wanted to hold a monkey.
It's adorable. I'm really sorry it's illegal, and I'm sorry it's
No, it's not illegal.
monkeys.
It's immoral. You shouldn't do it. But again, I said I can forgive my 6-year-old self for not knowing any better. But yeah, they are adorable, particularly the one in the middle. Everyone's cute when they're little, though. Do you know what I mean? I bet Hitler was a lovely-looking little baby. It doesn't count, you know.
I think...
Imagine if they did pay $40 because they saw a picture of me once with some monkeys.
Thought that there might be a PETA coalition here. I was secretly hoping that could cause some drama.
Oh, right, okay.
But maybe not. It seems like everyone's retained their seats, so I think we're in good shape. I know that we want to get to all of your showbiz successes and experiences, but I like to tiptoe through the family.
Okay.
I read that your dad was a hod carrier. Now, I don't think they have hod in the United States, or maybe it's just a different word.
Okay,
what does that mean?
Oh God, so my dad was French-Canadian. He volunteered for the war, met my mum. Something happened because she got pregnant. So my oldest brother was born, I think, during the war. They had 2 more. I've got an older sister and another older brother. And then 11 years later, in 1961, I came along. I remember when I was about 13, asking my mum, I said, why are my brother and sister so much older than me? And she just said, you're a mistake. Just honest.
Ooh.
Straight away.
Tough customer.
Oh, straight away. Honesty.
Customer.
Honesty was a big thing.
Well, you were the baby.
I was the baby by 11 years, yeah.
And I don't know why I'm pointing to the monkeys like they're somehow part of the family. They're not. We can get rid of that.
That was a place called Bognor Regis, which is a resort in the south of England that I used to go from about the age of 6 to about 12 with my mum and my nan. And we shared a little caravan because a neighbour had a caravan just in a place near Bognor. That was rock and roll. Me, my mum and my nan till I was 12.
I think that's awesome.
You haven't lived till you've woken up to the sound of your nan weeing in a tin bucket in a caravan. Honestly, it echoes.
You were the youngest one of 4, and in my experience, when you're the youngest one of 4, you are either pampered like a young prince or princess, or everyone is so over the idea of children.
It was a mixture of both, actually, because I think I was sort of part experiment. Do you know what I mean? I remember my sister teaching me to read all the time. I could read at 3, because I know that was, as you know, I wonder what this can do, you know. But I was also, there was a risk of being spoilt, because I was almost like an only child, because from the age of 6, my oldest brother was like 20, 18 and 17, so I was like a kid again. So my mum fostered kids, so I didn't, you know, I wasn't like an only child.
Oh, she did. That's
yeah. So, I think it was, you know, good and bad, really. You know, I suppose I did have to fight.
Not the fostering.
No, the fostering was great. It was great. And all my family sort of did that sort of thing as well. They were all eventually carers, which is what I got the idea for Derek from. But no, I suppose I did have to, a bit of a cliche, that I probably did have to fight to be heard and make my mark, you know, and you know, so...
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So, in America, there are, when Ricky and I were kids, the way social mobility used to work in the world and doesn't work so well these days is, you know, you would go to college or you would join the military, and that would take you to another station in life, or you could become just a mother effing celebrity.
Right.
And I love that you bought 2 lottery tickets because you went to college, but now could you please show us the second still image?
Yeah.
I just love this with all my heart, Ricky. So can you tell us about...
That was a band I was in for about 6 months. I was at college. I met the guy at college. We started a band. We got signed immediately.
Let's just... We can make fun of this. We can make fun of that boy's hair a lot. If you had anything to do with the hair, we can make fun of you. But the fact that you got signed is pretty amazing,
but then,
right?
So did loads of people. I mean, this only comes out now because I'm famous for something else. This would have been... I mean, I imagine everyone's got a photo like that in their collection.
No.
It was 1982.
But not having, we've all got pictures like that, but we wasn't because we were pop stars or possibly on the verge. Why were you dressing like that? Just dancing around in front of the mirror, dressing up like that?
I
wish I could deny it, but sadly I can't. And sadly, my hair would probably be more like the guy in the white suit.
Yeah, I wanted to be I suppose I wanted to be a pop star then, and when it was all over, I realised that I should have wanted to be a musician. So when I came to this, I'd sort of learned a lesson that I wanted to. It was the creative process I liked. That's why I wanted to be a writer director, not just a star, not just a, you know.
The group was called something...
Shauna Dancing. It wasn't even, it was just 2 of us. It was like an electro sort of pop. I ripped off Bowie. We sort of tried to be like Depeche Mode, Yazoo, one of those things. And we nearly made it, and then we were dropped, and it was all over. Honestly, it started and ended in a year. So yeah, that comes out now on things like this and chat shows. But I'm not embarrassed by it. I'm embarrassed at how I look now. That's why I just...
I don't think you have anything to be embarrassed about there or here. I feel like if you had something to do with that poor boy's hair...
No, that was his decision. You know what? I did it for a while, but I got... There are extensions
You're
that
very
sort of waxed
new
in.
romantics. You're giving us a new wave vibe.
Yeah.
He's giving us something else. So how important was music to you growing up? Was it a big part of your... That's the other good thing about having older siblings, because they're listening to all the cool stuff.
Exactly. When I was sort of... I borrowed my mum's sort of record player. It was an old Alba. And I got my older brothers and sisters singles when they sort of moved out. So at the age of like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I was listening to things like Bob Dylan and the Beatles and the Stones and Neil Young, you know. I remember I used to play Like a Rolling Stone. I'd never heard anything like it. It was like my favourite song. And so I sort of accidentally acquired pretty good taste, you know, because it was hanging around.
It's an amazing thing. You should try having an older sister and the only thing you listened to for 7 years is Joni Mitchell. That is another way to develop musical taste.
I loved Joni Mitchell as well. I know I love that sort of... you know, everything from, as I say, the Beatles and the Stones. I was a folk sort of guy. I sort of quite liked having meaning to the music, which sort of stayed with me. But for me, music is the greatest art form. I mean, more than anything else, more than film. I love fine art, but nothing. It's so evocative. It's like, I don't know. It's like downloading emotions. There's something magical about music that I can't get in anything else. You know.
And I love that. We'll get to this when we get to David Brent and David Brent on the Road. That music has stayed part of some of your most wonderful narrative creations too. But music is still a big part of things, and so I feel slightly less manipulative and more justified in playing a very short bit of a highly pixelated music video by this pair.
Oh, God.
Is that all right? Oh. You can't say no now. These people have paid $40, Ricky.
I know, but you don't know and I do know there's some really cool musicians here tonight that got in on the guest list. So now I'm horrified.
Is Grace Jones here?
I'm not gonna reveal, don't worry, but I'm not gonna, go on.
Let's hear it.
Scowling shouts, irrational accusations as I turn my head. Your threats and trials, my calm and smiles, revolts you in your torturous insecurities.
Isn't that terrific?
Could I just say I had nothing to do with the video either. I don't even know what that video meant. I was 10 years old and they told me where to stand. Honestly.
What you missed in this video, and you can find if you're as... I went into a rabbit hole of Ricky Gervais. I've watched everything that's ever been put on YouTube. There's somebody has a mallet, and I don't know if it's the boy with the hair.
Yeah, it's the boy with the hair.
He's got a mallet, and he's just breaking lots of stuff.
He's just hitting a pipe. They made us do this. There was a one-day video shoot in some sort of warehouse, and then they put in this woman smashing stuff up. I don't know. Let's move on. Look, I mean, we went from 1961 to 1983, and we're still there.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay.
What's going on? Oh.
Okay.
This
Well,
is-
another thing that happened
This is like a nightmare. I've told my girlfriend that if ever they bring back that "This Is Your Life," she has to tell me and ruin it so I don't have to go on it.
Yeah,
this feels like you're going to get someone out from my back. It's the boy with the hair.
Okay, one last question about this, then we will move so fast onward. When the record label says
yeah.
it's done,
Yeah.
is it a moment of sadness? Or
Yeah, no,
is
I
it-
remember getting the call. We brought out the first single, which is a thing called More to Lose, and it did okay by today's standards. It did okay. It was nearly a hit, okay? But good, let's do another one. And this one was even closer to nearly a hit. And again, I think it sold like, maybe 20,000 singles, which would be okay, which would not be bad now, but it was a different time, you had to. And then they just called me up and said, "Oh, we're not going to pick up the next option." And I went, "Oh, all right." And I was very sad, because you think that doesn't seem long enough. 2 singles doesn't seem long enough to see if you can make it. But obviously, in retrospect, I'm glad it happened, because I'd be dead now, wouldn't I?
Well,
If I was a rock star.
You know why
if I was a rock star, I'd be the best rock star ever, and I'd be dead.
You know why I don't think you'd be dead? Because I did the math backwards in my head. About this time in your life.
You're weird.
About this time, they're paying you nothing, they're paying me less than nothing.
Really?
I had to pay to do it. About this time, you meet a woman called Jane Fallon.
Yeah.
And you stick together. She's out here.
Oh, don't embarrass her.
But she's out here.
Yeah.
But do you know how much I admire, and anybody in this audience would admire, a life partnership, a working partnership, a romantic partnership, where for 30 years, do you know how un-celebrity, how un-entertainment that is?
That's nothing. For 10 years after that...
She watched that and stayed with you.
And I was on the dole. I had no money. We lived in a flat, right? I said, "Jane, stick with me. One day we'll do a Times talk." It was 1983. I said, "Listen, we haven't got much yet, but honestly, one day, when I'm 55, we'll laugh about this." I've told this story before. I've got to tell the story. So we met at college and we moved in together. Okay, and our first flat we had, it was this big. Honestly,
the rug.
We had honestly a little single bed. It was so cold we used to sleep in tracksuits sometimes because we couldn't afford electricity. I'm not exaggerating. Okay, we had no money. Okay, so we had a single bed. I could open the fridge from the bed. Literally, I could open the fridge door from the bed, and there was a cooker. And there was a sink. There wasn't even a bathroom. That was outside. That was 2 floors up that we had to share with the other sort of these tiny little flats above a seedy sauna in King's Cross. Now, I don't know if you know King's Cross. It's the worst place in the world, right? But that's all we could afford, right? And so if I had to have a wee in the night, did I put trousers on and go outside and go up to... No. I just popped to the sink, right? And I remember Jane...
Jane!
I know. No.
Run!
I remember one night, Jane in a sleepy haze going, "Oh, at least take the dishes out first."
That's kind of...
I used to hold them up and aim straight down. So she knew I was a keeper.
Clearly. So quickly, because I know you want to get, we want to get, I know you do a lot of work on radio, and what are the byways that get you to the writing career that really...
Right, okay, so after the music fell apart, I tried a bit more. It was all over in sort of like by 1984, yeah. Tried a bit more. Eventually got a job, worked my way up in an office. I started on reception, and then I became the office manager, which is The Office. I left that job in 1996. I went to work for a radio station, still behind the scenes, I was meant to write things for the DJs, but because I'm lazy, I started going in myself and saying, I'll do it, because I couldn't be bothered to type it up. So I said, I'll just do this.
I get that.
And I started making little jokes, and I was on like 5 shows. I was just popping up as the guy that worked there. He was the guy from The Office, right? And so it was twofold, really. I'd already had the idea. I'd already had David Brent as a character.
You did?
Yeah, because I used to do things just to make people laugh, like impressions of people. And
how real a basis is there in the David Brent?
I had David Brent, I'd say, fully formed from my Office days, 1995, 96, 97. He was there.
It's fantastic.
And then someone heard me on the radio, and there was a new show coming on TV on Channel 4 called The 11 O'Clock Show, where it was going to use new comedians. It was 3 nights a week, 11 o'clock, very irreverent. It was like SNL, but with no restrictions. It was crazy. It reached a peak. It's gone back now. There's nothing that we could do that wouldn't get... Ali G started, that was me, Ali G. Mackenzie Crook started on it. And I had an audition, and I did a character, and the character I did was a reporter who he editorialised. So I thought that was the joke. I always thought, why didn't newsreaders, when they got a thing, they'd go, fuck me. Why didn't they ever, why didn't they ever show themselves? Why didn't they ever go, oh, not again, oh, this is, So this guy would go, today nurses went on strike, and I played this sort of right-wing bigot who was misinformed and angry about everything. So anything that was happening, I know, amazing, isn't it? I know. Amazing. And that was the character that I did. And meanwhile, I started writing The Office, and so it all started happening in sort of 1998, 99.
Yeah. It's a fantastic thing, and I promised you at the beginning, I promised him up front, I wasn't going to ask a lot of wonky, serious questions. But the one question that's in that category that I do want to ask you is that David Brent is so perfect for how he reflects all of our desires, to know where we fit in the world.
Well, yeah.
Who's where?
He's sort of about that, though, because...
Where am I?
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that he's delusional about where he is makes him just brilliant and funny. But was that a concern? Was that something that you thought about a lot?
I'd always people watch.
As a kid or as older?
I always people watched as a kid. I wasn't a naughty kid, but I did answer back, and I'd sort of tease adults and even tease teachers. I thought in a fun way, and make the kids laugh at the back of the class, But I was always fascinated with people and humanity and embarrassment. I was never embarrassed myself. I could, but I was embarrassed for other people. I knew what it felt like to be embarrassed, because I was embarrassed if someone else made a terrible joke, and I wanted to save them. And David Brent, apart from me working in an office and all those picking up symptoms and political correctness and people being something they're not, and David Brent is all about acceptance. David Brent is all about wanting to be loved. We're all like David Brent, really, on a sliding scale. We all worry about what people think of us. We all want to be liked. We all want people to think we're smart and nice and clever. And David Brent, he's too desperate for it. David Brent wants to walk into a room and go, I am not a racist. He wants, do you know what I mean? He's very self-conscious, and he doesn't quite understand political correctness, so it depends who he's talking to, and he wants to be loved by everyone. But now that is even more poignant, because the Office was sort of based on those quaint docu-soaps of the 90s, where ordinary people had started to become famous for just being who they were. And,
Yeah.
and it was nice, and that was it. And they got their 15 minutes, and that was it.
And we all got a taste of it. We all got a slight thirst for it.
And I thought that was the peak of it. I thought this, you know, I thought this was the peak of Andy Warhol's prophetic statement, you know. But it wasn't. It was just the beginning. Now fame is very different. Now it's insatiable. Now people live their life like an open wound to be famous. Now people do anything to be famous. People do bad things to be famous. There's no difference now between fame and infamy. People literally, because they've learned that they get rewarded for bad behaviour too. Yeah. They do anything, and now we've got trolls that are becoming so-called journalists who get given their own columns, that they go on, they say horrendous things for clickbait. They've realised that saying something horrendous and terrible and provocative and nasty gets them a job, you know? And so it's a very different time, you know? And since The Office, we've had things like, that wasn't around then, we've had things like The Apprentice, where people get on it now by saying, I would destroy anyone that moves.
Yeah.
There's a new bravado and pleasure in bullying and cruelty that wasn't there. And people go on, how often have you seen something like Celebrity Big Brother, where a guy who's fallen from grace, a D-list celebrity or whatever, goes in there and he says, I want to show the public a different side of me. And I'm going, why do you care about the public? They want you to fail again. You're entertainment, you know? Yeah. It's not therapy. It's terrible. And so David Brent has got this, he's got this abusive relationship with fame. He keeps going, it'll be better this time. And he just doesn't need it. He just doesn't know.
Let us go to a clip. I've chosen a clip. An English friend sent me The Office really, really early, before it was on TV here. And the fact that you never blinked was my favorite part of that show. I thought, he's going to blink, and you never, damn, you never did it.
Wow.
And so I chose one that I really like. I don't know if you'll like this episode. It's from Training, and...
My favourite episode.
No way, really?
My favourite episode. It's what the film was inspired by, where David Brent gets out his guitar, and he mugs his own... I love the fact that then he was just using TV to try and show the world his versatility. So he suddenly realised he got a bit of attention, you know, and so that was the seed of David Brent wanting to be a rock star.
Let's set this clip up just to say one thing, that the word Texas is not about the state of Texas, it's about a rock band called Texas that maybe you know, maybe you didn't know. Can we have that clip, please? I feel like a genius. You don't even really need to show the clip. I've already chosen Ricky's favorite clip. I feel like a rock star.
Yeah, and I get all this, oh, David, you know, you're a brilliant singer-songwriter. You're stuck in Slough. Well, it's Texas that are off, you know, making all the money. You know, and they're rubbish compared to you. And I go, don't slag them off. I say, I've been there, I've done that, you know, that's behind me, you know. And I respect, the thing is, we're both good in our own fields. I'm sure Texas couldn't run and manage a successful paper merchants, yeah. I couldn't, you know, actually I could do what they do, and I think they knew that even back then, probably what spurred them on. This. I only play songs I've written myself, so...
You went home to get it?
Spaceman came down to answer some things. The world gathered round from paupers to kings. I'll answer your questions, I'll answer them true. I'll show you the way, you know what to do. Who is wrong and who is right? Yellow, brown, black or white? The spaceman, he answered, you no longer mind. I've opened your eyes, you're now colorblind. Racial. So, she's the serpent who guards the gates of hell.
You get to hear the second verse of Spaceman, and Paris Nights in the movie. So, yeah.
Just FYI. I've seen about, I don't know, I've seen maybe 3 of the international versions of The Office that you produced. And they all decide, and I don't know if it's about the, you know, the marketplace or the producer notes, they all sweeten him up. They decide to give him this emotional piece that David Brent just doesn't have, which is so fantastic.
I think what they do is, I think they, particularly the American one, I think they had to make it more palatable and change certain things, I think, correctly, because Americans aren't really, they're not slackers like Brits are. So it wouldn't make sense. Do you know what I mean? They do work a little bit harder, I think, and they do want to do a good job. And Brits try and get away with not doing anything if they can. And I suppose the other thing is that...
Were you ever tempted to sweeten him up?
I think he is quite sweet, and I think there's moments there where you realise that he's hurting inside, and he does feel it. When he begs for his job back, he has to admit it on camera that he's not as brave as he likes, which was this will sound weird, but I suppose my inspiration for that was Angels with Dirty Faces, where at the last minute he sort of begs to, you know, and I thought it was him showing bravado and then going, please don't make me redundant. And I just thought it was so sad, a 40-year-old man who'd let the cameras in, but now he has to beg on screen for his job back because it means so much to him. And I want people to think that he sort of deserved it more, because even though Neil was slicker and more popular, and he had an edge that Brent didn't have. Brent he had a lovely life before Neil came along. You know, he had a nice life. He was a bit of a show-off. He was a bit of a narcissist, but he wasn't hurting anyone. He just sort of wanted to entertain. It was quite sad because he was childlike.
But the sadness of it was, I thought, the most appealing part of it.
Yeah,
so by sweetening him, you cut against that.
No, sweetening's, yeah, you're right. Sweetening's the wrong word. But with the American version, why I think they made Michael Scott slightly more likeable and more positive is because America is more positive than Britain. I think it's the way Americans are brought up. Americans are brought up to believe they can be the next president of the United States. and they can. They really can. Come on, you can do it. One of you do it, right? And Brits are told it won't happen to you, so don't try. There's a big different attitude. You know, in America, you drive a Rolls Royce around America and say, oh, they go, well done, buddy. In England, don't leave it out on the street because someone will scratch it. Who do you think you are? There is a palpable difference. And I love that too. I love bits. I love the differences. I do like the differences in different ways. But I think that was why the changes had to happen, because there's nowhere quite like the British workplace in that way, you know? And I never saw him as a nasty person. I saw him as quite a sad, desperate, lonely man who wanted people to know he was all right.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
So yeah, I suppose that's...
It also, so we have The Office, your version of The Office, and then Extras, which is, you know, really hysterical in its own ways. And it positions you almost ideally to take on a role that you are, you know, widely known for in America as Golden Globes host, which is all about letting us know in the comfort of our beds that Angelina Jolie is no better than we are, not at all.
Sure.
We're all the same. We're all human. We're all trying. We're all doing. And can we go to a Golden Globe clip right now, because I just love it.
Listen, if you do win tonight, remember that no one cares about that award as much as you do, okay? Don't get emotional, it's embarrassing, okay? That award is, no offence, worthless. It's a bit of metal that some nice old confused journalists wanted to give you in person so they could meet you and have a selfie with you. Okay? That's all it is. I've got three Golden Globes myself, so I can say one's a doorstop, one I used to hit burglars with, and one I keep by the bed to... Doesn't matter why. It's mine. It's mine. It's mine. I want it fair and square. It's just the right shape and size. It's nothing... Yeah. So to be clear, that was a joke about me shoving Golden Globes that I've won up my arse. And they asked me to host 4 times! Jesus. Let's do the show, shall we? On a serious note, the Golden Globes are about excellence. To win one, you have to do something amazing. Neither of our first 2 presenters have won a Golden Globe. I don't know what they're doing here, really, but I don't choose the guests.
It's so perfectly of a piece with what the thematic concerns of your career.
That's funny, because that's why I love doing the Golden. I like doing it for so many reasons, but I also, I don't usually write jokes. I don't write jokes in narrative as such, you know, one-liners, I mean. I don't really do jokes when I do stand-up. They're much more anecdotal in their pieces, whereas that's a lovely opportunity to write one-liners about, and you can't use them again. It's about that night, about those people. So yeah. I really enjoy...
It's a different muscle.
Exactly, yeah. And it's just fun. I think that was the 4th time. I think they'd sort of started to get me by then. You know what I mean? The first time I went out there and started saying that, and they were going, why are you saying all these bad things about us? But you're right, I made a conscious decision. I had to play the sort of outsider, you know.
Because I imagine a lot of these people are your friends.
Of course, I know how, but that'd be nauseating. Imagine me going and go, hey George, well done man, you're amazing.
Well, we know he's amazing.
Hi Brad, you know. But I made a conscious decision that do I pound the 200 people in the room or the 200 million people watching at home? There's no contest, because they're not winning awards. They're not millionaires winning awards. So why are they watching other people be praised and win an award? Yeah. I tried to make it a spectator sport. And
you did.
No, but I didn't.
I mean, it's a Schadenfreude spectator sport, maybe, but I have the best time.
I was never that nasty. I was never that nasty. I think it was just that maybe they weren't used to that sort of gentle roasting, because let's remember, it went out at like 5 p.m. on network. I didn't do anything that bad. I went for people's behaviours that they could help. They did it publicly, and it wasn't a room full of wounded soldiers. These people are,
I know.
You know,
yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
And I think I can justify every joke. And it was just gentle teasing, really. You know.
Since then, I imagine you could have an entire cottage industry of being award host, right? If you wanted it.
Maybe. I liked it because I did it the first time because I genuinely, I was flattered to be asked, and it was you know, as a relatively new comedian in America and that global audience, it was irresistible. I did it a second time because I thought I could improve on it. I did it a third time because everyone said he'd never be invited back. And when I wanted to do it show. Then I said no more, and I did it last year because they persuaded me. I was really busy, but I thought I could do it one more time. And but you know, now I think I would do it again. Now I leave it a while, and I would do it again because it's just fun. It's fun for 3 hours, you know.
It's funny what you're also saying about the difference between the UK and the US version of The Office. I love Jimmy Fallon. This isn't a knock on Jimmy Fallon or anything, but when we saw his Golden Globe thing, it was all about massive, his bromance with Justin Timberlake, I found it kind of alienating. I found it kind of, really, we're really gonna hold these people up as if they've split atoms or done something really
I suppose if there is a year to hold them up, it's this year, because you want to show your alliances that there's, you know, I think this madness of that they're nasty people and they're because their liberal elite is a bit wild. But I never had any animosity towards them. But as you say, I didn't want to alienate the audience who thinks, well, we don't care if he's friends with them or not. Where's the jokes? And I thought they could take it. I was surprised at the reaction, and no one there was offended by it, I don't think. I mean, a few of them were looking around to go, can I laugh?
Yeah.
Because I'm not beholden to anyone in the room. I write and produce my own things. I don't care what a director or a producer thinks of me in case I don't get a job. And I think to be a comedian, you have to be sort of uncorruptible. More than ever now, I think we have to, journalists and comedians and everyone who has a say has to be able to point and say the king is in the altogether. More than ever now, more than ever this year, God, freedom of speech is more important than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. And I'd say that, you know, I certainly wasn't punching down. You know, I did the classic. It's a very British thing to go. You go after the person who's paid you. You know what I mean? Like I did tonight. They haven't paid me, so why not? No, but you do. You go for the person who's hired you. You tease the Hollywood Foreign Press. You tease NBC, and you tease all the people being honoured because that's the way of it. I play an outsider. I play a slob. I play a guy who goes out. He's drunk. What will he say? What won't he say? I've planned those jokes. I've written them. Every word of that joke is honed. You know, I know what I'm saying, and I stand by it. But it's just part of the showbiz. You know, but it is important that I'm never censored. It's live. They don't even ask to hear the jokes beforehand. You know,
I think that's
great.
really
I don't have a prompt. NBC, they let me do exactly what I wanted and stood by it, and it's great. And I wouldn't have any other way. But I don't want to ruin their night. You know.
Oh, and I
don't want to bring anyone down. You know, there's more important people that deserve ridicule than a few actors. You know.
At this moment, I
yeah.
agree. So. Flash forward now, that was 2016, we're now in 2017, and David Brent comes back. So tell us how, had you been flirting with the idea of bringing David Brent back at all?
Honestly, for 10 years, well, first of all, my version of The Office finished in England in, I think, 2003.
Yes.
And that was it. I did extras, then a few films, Derek, stand-up, etc. But me managing the estate of The Office never stopped. There was the 7 remakes around the world, including the American one. I popped up in that for fun. I have to okay clips for quiz machines in pubs. I have to okay a clip if Martin Freeman's on a chat show. You know, so.
Yeah.
But I never thought about bringing it back, and didn't think I would. But then. Because it had been 10 years, there was a 10-year anniversary thing on BBC as a big celebration. They showed the episodes again. They brought out an anniversary box set with lots of unseen footage. And it coincided with Comic Relief that year. And I did I thought it was 10 years. It's just a little thing. I did a little 10-minute skit for Comic Relief. And I had to think about what David Brent would be doing. And so I made him a rep in Slough, and he was managing a young rapper, which I thought was funny because that carried on the fact that, you know, he's fascinated with difference. He couldn't believe he had a black friend. He went on about it all the time. The friend was he'd introduce him as, "This is Don, my black friend." He'd say that, you know, and he was managing him. He thought it was like the local Simon Cowell, because I think people never give up. Even if he failed at that, he's on the periphery of fame. You know, he wants to do something, and then he's paying for his demo. And then he worms his way and he does one of his own songs. And the song I did was Equality Street, which was just an ad-lib in that episode of The Office, where I go, we used to have a political reggae song called Equality Street, which I thought was and I wrote that, did that, and that was it. And then I thought, I've done quite a few songs now. I wrote 3 for the Office. We did that one. I wrote another one. And we did a little charity gig, a little gig. And I bumped into Andy Burroughs, who was a drummer of Razorlight, and I'd met him a few times. And I said, I was thinking of doing a gig. He said, leave it with me. And he had a ready-made band, and we rehearsed, and we did a little show. We put the tickets on sale, and we did a little show, and there was 110,000 ticket requests. Wembley called the next day and said you could do Wembley, and they went, yeah. I said, hold on, this is mental. Why would David Brent be playing Wembley, and why would he have this amazing band? This is just a... And that was the seed of the idea. So I wrote it into on stage. I'd be saying things like, I'm not making any money out of this because they've charged a bit too much. And I said, you have a drink after? Nah, they never have a drink with me. I put it in as it made a bit of cabaret, and that was the seed of the idea. He's paying for it. He's paying, he wants to be a rock star, so he's decided to get, he's hemorrhaging cash on a group of session musicians who don't want to be there but are taking the money. He's booking his own gigs, and that was the idea for the film. And I told my agent, and he said, I'll talk to the BBC, and he basically said, oh, they're biting your hand off for it. And I wrote the film in, I'd say 6 months, and filmed it in 5 weeks. Last year, it's about David Brent, second bite at fame. This time he's trying to be a rock star, which is even sadder. But it's really.
I've seen it. I had to, sign away everything I would ever earn to Netflix if I ever showed it to anyone else. It's happening. It's going to be streaming on Netflix, not this Friday, but next Friday. We have a clip to show, which is pretty funny. If you would do that for us, Control Room.
Let's book a string of gigs, book a tour bus, beautiful tour bus, top of the range, state of the art, air conditioning, bunks, it's like a party on wheels. Oh God, I hope we get some sleep. I'm up and down the country all the time, on the road is where I really come alive. So, just swapping the old Insignia for the tour bus. Here we go. Oh. What's up? Oh. See you later. Oh. There's not a lot of room on there, so we think it's better I follow behind. So, good idea in a way. What's up?
It's really terrific, and you'll love it.